Hey guys, episode 4 of season 2 of Peacemaker brought some major revelations, and now the game has changed. The interdimensional portal has finally been explained, but do the other 99 Earths exist, or is it all just an illusion? Harcourt betrayed Chris, and the real threat of the season has finally emerged, and it's after Eagly, but who could it be? Everything seems to be heading towards something that's going to have a huge impact on the upcoming DCU production, so without any more delay, let's save into another complete analysis.
As with the other episodes, this one starts with a flashback where Chris, still a kid, is hunting in the woods with his dad and Keith, his brother. They're hunting when the white dragon shoots an animal. They're shocked by the sound of pain coming from the creature, and that's when they realize it was actually an alien. Peacemaker's dad shoots the poor creature, which was begging for mercy. Yeah, right off the bat, we have this really heavy flashback. And it looks like this creature may be the goblin that Peacemaker's dad referred to from the other Earth. Even though there are different Earths, there's still a chance that this also happened over there. At first glance, it seems like this creature that died was also a creation of James Gunn for the series, just like that alien neighbor of Peacemaker's, or even Mr. Hansen from Superman.
Chris yells at his dad not to shoot the creature, and he gets smacked for trying to interfere. When they check the body, they discover a strange object and a door that leads to a quantum dimension. And that's it, folks. This is how Peacemaker and his dad got the technology for the quantum portal. This was pretty interesting. There was no explanation in the first season, which I think was because the portal didn't have that much relevance to that story. But in this case, this quantum portal is indeed an extremely important element for this season's narrative. So I think it was a great move to include the explanation. The flashback is also really good because of the relationship between father and sons, that troubled dynamic they have. We had already seen scenes of what Peacemaker's dad did to his kids in the first season, and here we have another traumatic moment for Chris. After all, both he and Keith were just kids hunting with their dad. So yeah, it's an important flashback for telling the origin of the portal, because it gives context to the story, and also important for character development. Their reactions and how they treat each other. This makes the characters more complex and believable. That's one of the things that makes Peacemaker so good. It's because the characters are really well written. And this scene says a lot about them.
Next, in the present, Sasha's team is on their way to Peacemaker's house, while the other agents are waiting for him to arrive. We have a long sequence of playful banter between the agents. And of course, Red Saint Wild stands out in this episode. Surprisingly, not just in humor, but also in the level of threat he represents to Eagly. Finally, we have an antagonist who really poses a threat. You feel like he could actually kill Eagly. Of course, we don't want that to happen, but that moment at the end where he looks at Eagly gives off a real sense of danger. If it weren't for Economus, he probably would have hit Eagly for sure. But anyway, as an antagonist, Red Saint Wild is way better than Rick Flag Sr. As the episode goes on, Economus manages to send the message to Peacemaker, who only now realizes the mess that's going on in his house thanks to Eagly. The humor works really well here, with Peacemaker all flustered and not noticing that his house is surrounded. He manages to escape at the last second, taking with him that object we saw in the flashback. At this moment, Red Saint Wild realizes that Eagly is nearby while he's eating bird droppings, and man, Economo's reaction represents all of us. He almost takes Eagly out, but at the last second, Economo saves the bird by pushing him on purpose into the village. And here's a really cool detail in the script. Economos is in this dilemma of having to betray his friend, spying on him, being part of the Argus team that's going to raid the house and gather intel. He obviously doesn't want to do that, he hates the job. Still, by keeping a close watch on Chris, when the moment comes, he always finds a way to help Chris. This contrasts sharply with Emilia Harcourt's actions, because in the end, she really gives away Chris's location. She betrayed Chris. Of course, it's very possible that Harcourt will redeem herself later, but Economos looks at Harcourt as if he's judging her for betraying Peacemaker. And you know that's going to cause some tension in the group, and it's interesting to see how each one reacts concerning their friend. Meanwhile, Chris is running through the woods, but he's ambushed by Judo Master. Their fight is quick, but really fun. Peacemaker wins using a move straight out of WWE, which is kind of funny because of the John Cena reference since he was in WWE. The anti-hero calls for Adebayo and finally manages to escape.
While that's happening, Adebayo is on cloud 9 because she got an ad in a weapons magazine. She thinks about sharing the info with Kia, but then she decides against it. What's interesting here is that we get a bit more insight into Adebayo's life and the issues she's been facing. The main characters in this show are great, and the story gets even richer when we know more about their lives rather than just seeing them talk about Chris or only interacting with him. The magazine moment is cool because it helps develop Adebayo and sets the stage for the weapons magazine joke they make at the end of the episode, and it's a good joke, so it's a scene with a double purpose. After that, Argus breaks into Chris's house and tries to open the dimensional portal. Economos buys as much time as he can since Peacemaker needs to transport the portal to a safe location. Here it becomes very clear that Economos can't stand working for Argus anymore and he might turn against them at some point this season. Dude, he even spat on an agent. As for Emilia Harcourt, despite Rick Flag Sr.'s offer, I don't think she'll be going back to Argus. Plus, Adebayo is building her own spy and mercenary agency, and one possibility is that they could team up with Adebayo and form a supergroup. Regarding Rit seemed wild. He had an epiphany that Eagly is some kind of a god of eagles, and now he's more determined than ever to kill him. Notice the wound he has is in the spot where a third eye would be, usually depicted as evidence of sensory expansion. The point is that this show makes it seem like this guy is a lunatic because you really can't believe he's serious. He seems delusional. But by the end of the episode, there's a plot twist that shows he was dead serious. It was really cool how this show makes him feel like a big conspiracy nut, but in the end, he reaches some form of clarity. Michael Rooker is doing an amazing job in this role, and he's hilarious. I'm really enjoying this.
After that, Peacemaker calls Vigilante for help and goes to an abandoned house he uses as a hideout. In the car, he tells Adebayo that his dad didn't make Peacemaker's helmets either. This makes me wonder if this detail about who made the helmets will be explored later this season or at some point in the DCU. Because if James Gunn introduced this explanation that the White Dragon didn't build the portal, let alone the helmets, then there's nothing stopping him from saying he didn't build the armor either. And in the case of the other Earth, maybe he didn't even make Kate's armor. Thinking about it now, this definitely needs to be explained at some point. Back in the episode, Chris also explains everything that happened when he killed the other Chris from the other Earth. This worries Adebayo, and she brings up the time Chris had visions of his father. James Gunn wouldn't have included this if it weren't important for the season finale. Remember, Peacemaker having visions of his dad is something that comes from the DC Comics. I'm not exactly sure how this will affect the story, but I think Chris will definitely have visions of his father. Because this happened at the end of the first season, it went on standby, and now it's coming back. That can't be a coincidence. If it doesn't come back, it would be a waste because this issue of visions from his dad is really intriguing. Finally, they arrive at the cabin and Chris manages at just the right moment to transfer the portal from his house to the cabin. Argus gets confused and even wonders if they've been tricked because when Sasha opens the door, there's only a closet there. And guys, it might not have been intentional, but that thing about entering another door to access another Earth reminds me a lot of Monsters Inc. since they also access kids' rooms through doors. Rick Flag is completely sure that Chris did something. That's why he decides to go after Harcourt. Speaking of which, the ex-agent is getting into fights again. Rick Flag meets Harcourt at her place and it becomes clear that they have a history together. They have a quick chat, and there's a brief reference to Creature Commandos when Rick Flag fought Clayface. Let's be real, this guy recovered pretty quickly for someone who just broke their back. Just imagine if the Nightfall saga happened in the DCU. Batman would bounce back fast. Quickly, Rick realizes she's friends with Peacemaker. He mentions something that happened at the funeral, which we assume is for Rick Flag Jr. It's mentioned that Emilia has really been excluded due to Amanda Waller. We can't tell right now if this is true or some manipulation tactic. Rick wants to make a deal. If Harcourt gives away Peacemaker's location, she'll be reinstated at Argus. She hesitates a bit, but still gives away Chris's location much to Equinamos' dismay. While Equinamos is trying to save Chris the first time, Emilia just hands over Chris like that.
Here we have two possibilities. Either this story is poorly told, maybe she's citing her cards to help Chris, or she's mixing her feelings for Peacemaker since he killed Rick Flag Jr. with her desperate need for a job. They're definitely gonna explore this more in the upcoming episodes. Back with Chris and Adebayo, they have a serious conversation about him staying on the other Earth and how that could lead to bad consequences. Adebayo has a center view. Peacemaker shouldn't go there because the neighbor's grass always looks greener, and that's what we've been talking about from the beginning. That line was even in the trailer and illustrates all our suspicions about this other Earth, which might have some relation to Earth X from the comics, the Earth where German soldiers won World War II, so it's an Earth that's not perfect at all. But we still can't be absolutely sure as we go through the next episodes of the series. They may reveal something in the next episode, or maybe it'll be safe for episodes 6, 7, and 8, the ones that the press hasn't seen yet and that James Gunn promised a lot about. Speaking of that scene, it's really good, both for the dialogue and the performances by the two. You completely understand why Chris insists on staying on the other Earth, and you also understand that Adebayo is right in what she says. It's one of those scenes where the dialogue flows naturally because the characters are really good. The actors carry it easily. It was such a good scene. Before leaving, Chris decides to talk to Harcourt from his Earth to try one last shot. Meanwhile, Red Sing Wild performs a ritual to find Eagly, and to our surprise, the ritual is serious. He manages to locate the bird, and this is where the episode ends. The finale was pure hype for next week. You can't deny that in terms of anticipation, the series is really picking up steam. It was an episode packed with lots of action, great action scenes, awesome comedic moments. Red Sing Wild is really funny in my opinion, and he proved to be a major threat to Eagly. Plus, we also had scenes that develop Adebayo and Amelia Harcourt a bit more. It's an episode you can't complain about because a lot really happened. It was a great episode. Red Sing Wild really stole the spotlight as other antagonists are either very incompetent or slow. For those who don't know, Red Sing Wild is an original character from the series. He doesn't exist in the comics, making him another creation of James Gunn, and I think that was a fantastic decision. As I said, he's a way better antagonist than Rick Flag Sr., who in this episode tried to turn Peacemaker's team against him. It didn't work with Economos. The doubt remains, is Harcourt going to betray Peacemaker, or is she hiding the truth to help him? That uncertainty about what'll happen keeps us engaged for the next episode and the rest of the season. That's why that flashback from episode 3 was so good. Now that we know Harcourt was involved with Rick Flag Jr., we have more context to better understand her actions if she really betrays Chris. It leaves us in doubt because we can't predict what she'll do, which is really cool because that makes it less predictable, and that's a good thing. In fact, the series as a whole isn't predictable, as Other Earth could very well be an alternate Earth like I just mentioned, or it could all be in Peacemaker's head, but I still believe it's not an illusion because Peacemaker will return to this other Earth, donning the uniform of the other Chris who died, not to mention that in the trailers, we saw Chris and Adebayo escaping from something there in the quantum portal. And if James Gunn promises mind-blowing stuff in the final episodes, then there's definitely no way to predict what's coming.
Aside from all that, I got the impression that it was a pretty fast episode. Do you feel the same? Everything was moving at a good pace, right until something bigger was about to happen and then the episode ended. I'm excited for the next episode, and now we're already halfway through the season, with 4 episodes left to wrap up Peacemaker's journey in the DCU. From the looks of it, the upcoming episode is going to be the most important one so far. The 5th episode, based on the hype that James Gunn mentioned about episodes 6, 7, and 8, promises to bring some mind-blowing moments. Is something big gonna happen that will tie into Man of Tomorrow? Are you enjoying the 2nd season of Peacemaker? Please write your thoughts in the comments. I'm keeping an eye on them, and don't forget to hit the like button on the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications because the DCU is full of news. There have been a lot of updates in recent days, and I'm gonna drop another video here to catch you up on everything regarding DC's upcoming projects. Thank you so much for being here with me in this video. Click on the video that's popping up on your screen. It's a great recommendation for you if you're a DC fan. And if you want to stay updated on every little detail of Peacemaker, click on the playlist next to it. I'll be signing off here. See you next time.